Put me up here. Yes, sir. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night right here at the Sportz Krib. As usual, we'll get our little commercial stuff out of the way. As you can see down on the bottom, the Sportz Krib, home of the Sportz Krib Network. Subscribe and donate Cash App, JE King 3, $ JE King 3. And all the proceeds go towards helping our station as well as some of the pet projects that we might have. So I see the guys are down there chomping at the bit. Let's get them up here. Dave, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, James, I'm doing okay.
All right, I see you up there raring to go. Was that your throwback hat there?
Yeah. I got a bunch of them.
I hear you. And Don, I'm sure Don must. I don't even want to think of how many Don must have. Texas. I mean, Don. How long have you been collecting Texas hats? Since 19.
About 1976, 77.
Okay, all right. Okay,
somewhere around that mid 70s.
Okay, all right. So, glad to have you guys tonight. I know that Mr. Scott will be sneaking in sometime during the broadcast. Looking for Demetrius, who's not here. Reggie, who I'm sure most of you have heard, is in Spain. He's up there for a wedding. It amazes me how much money these young people must be making. I mean, a couple of days over in Barcelona, a couple of days in Madrid, a couple of days in Paris. I mean, that I remember when we used to have to save up, a couple of years for that.
Hey, let me tell you a funny story about Barcelona.
Yeah.
So this guy I know, he played football at UT, and his name is Aaron Humphrey. He was a defensive end. Well, he played for NFL Europe. Remember when they had the NFL Europe?
Yeah.
The Dragons.
He played for Barcelona, and he said that during the practice times, said the wind would blow, and there'd just be this terrible odor, like dead animals. Certain times of day, the wind would blow off the sea, I guess, and this terrible odor. Well, to come to find out, in Spain, they ran out of room to bury bodies in the ground. They had these buildings like 6-7 stories tall, and that's where they put the bodies, like a
mausoleums, huh?
Yeah, a mausoleum. But the building was so shoddy that the bricks started crumbling, and so the wind would blow, and you get the smell of the decaying bodies floating across the football field. And I'm like, that is the most bizarre, screwed up thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. I think they used to do the same thing in London. Use buildings like that. But yeah, it's good to be in America, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Did we lose Don?
No, I'm here.
There you go. Okay. Okay. All right. So do we have a Sue's Corner tonight?
No, Sue sent her regrets. She was all set, but she said next week she'll have something.
Oh man, no. Okay, see that our audience is you know what they say, man. 2 weeks, hey, but no, we love Sue, and I would have thought that between the things that she kind of hinted at last week, I think we're going to start off with a little baseball, guys, and the legend, Pete Rose, finally meets the man. The autopsy said that he died of natural causes. I'm sure that surprised a lot of people, right? That in itself. But anybody want to, got some memories, or other than, we all remember him getting, convicted of gambling, which I think they punished him excessively. I don't think that he should have been banned from baseball. I see no reason why this man should not be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I'm not a baseball guy, but I remember, Pete the what was it? Pete the Hustler, or something like that. Is his nickname?
Charlie Hustle.
Charlie. Yeah.
Charlie Hustle. And I tell you, that's what I remember Pete Rose for, is what he did on the field. And it wasn't the statistics. I can't tell you any statistics about Pete Rose, but it's the way he
played. For that.
It's the way he played the game. And Charlie Hustle was the perfect way to name him. And he was one of the most competitive players that I ever saw. I was a Pirates fan, back in the 70s. Well, he was part of that Big Red machine.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it was a great team, and he was a great player on a great team, but it's the way he approached the game. And, the memories I have of him is like he's rounding third and he's going head first in the home plate. He didn't care about his body. He wanted to score points, and he was a great player, a great clutch player. If he was up at bat and they needed an RBI or a home run, whatever they needed, he would come up with it. And whether it was a big play on the field, a play with his bat, or running the bases, whatever it was. And he was like Mr. Baseball to me. And I was a big Pirates fan, but you had to respect Pete Rose whenever the Pirates would play Cincinnati.
Yeah. And he would die, not just home plate, any plate. It didn't matter. Second base, third base, it didn't matter. It was, like you said, that was the picture I remember of him always sliding head first. His hat flying back, it was, captured. But go ahead, Don. I know you have some.
Yeah, I remember whenever he drew a walk, people, the batters, they draw a walk and they just kind of, jog over to first base. He ran to first base on a walk. And that's old school right there. So, yeah, and the way I don't really remember him ever sliding, feet first. It was always head first, seems like. And I've seen, of course, in the news clips they've been showing the last few days. He didn't slide; he bounced. He bounced into the bases. So I'm sure he had a bunch of bruises and stuff. But yeah, he was the. He earned that nickname, Charlie Hustle. He was he was the legend, and I don't really care about all the controversy. The dude, his bat. I think his bat and some baseball that he hit. I think they're in the Hall of Fame. So if his bat is in the Hall of Fame, he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. So.
Well, we got our man's statistics right here. So, Bill, in a half hour or less.
I'll keep it short. 4,000.
Charlie Rose.
4,000. Well, I'll get through all of it. But 4,256 hits, right? That's the first thing you start with. We'll never see anyone come close to that again. Like, people know about records that'll never be broken. The 56 straight games. There's things you can say. Nobody will ever win 511 games again, or lose 363 games again. There's things they'll never, but that 4,256 hits, half of that is a Hall of Fame career. We'll never see that again. He exemplified a blue-collar city. And on top of that, it was the city where he grew up, right? He went to which Catholic high school? Not Pius. God, I know this. Was it Xaverian Brothers? One of the big powerhouse Catholic high schools. His whole life essentially was in the same place, or virtually his whole life was all in one place. To be the hometown hero, and to see the things that the twists and turns, and some of them were self-inflicted wounds. I mean, he had a certain prickliness to him that wasn't always apparent during it. Well, some of it was apparent during his playing days too. Ask Barry Foote, right? A guy who had his career ended essentially during, of all things, an all-star game, which would never happen nowadays, right? A guy, plowing into somebody that way during an all-star game. But, I caught more than 2/3 of his career, right? Some of you may have caught the whole thing. I caught more than 2/3 of his career, most of his career. And the team I played on as a little leaguer was called the Reds. We were sponsored by the local Wendy's. And so I had been a big Tom Seaver fan because I was a Mets fan, because at the time, the Mets AAA team was my hometown team. The first time I ever saw a professional sporting event was the Tidewater Tides, now called the Norfolk Tides. At the time, they were the AAA franchise of the Mets, who were still a couple of years away from being the World Series champions. But they stopped being the hapless Mets who finally had their record broken by the even more hapless White Sox. So thank you for that, White Sox. But the Reds were my other favorite team for a bunch of reasons. My maximum hero in baseball was Joe Morgan. I'm 5'7", he's 5'7". He's a great hitter. I'm 5'7". So I grew up.
Don't get away from. We're talking about the death of Pete Rose there now.
I promise I'm getting back to the death of Pete Rose.
Okay.
But as great as Tom Seaver was, who came over from another organization, as great as Joe Morgan was, who came over from another organization, the Colt 45s, who later became the Astros. There were a lot of great players on that team, but none of them exemplified the city of Cincinnati like Charlie Hustle, right? None of them. He was Cincinnati through and through, including the corruption part too. Like those who know Cincinnati know that Cincinnati has that in its. I mean, you're a Youngstown kid, right, James?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So Cincinnati is basically Youngstown's slightly cittier cousin, basically, right? Slightly more. Slightly more, I don't know, cosmopolitan, if that's a term you could use to describe Cincinnati.
That's why it's called the Queen City.
Right. So think of all the things that pop into your head when you think about this place, right? Its physical location, its connection to what we used to call the Rust Belt. Still, I think Bayer, I think still has its headquarters there. So some major corporations had their headquarters there. But mostly it was a city where trucking and, lots of trains and things, lots of sort of logistics and things that involved getting dirty in various ways went on in Cincinnati for a long time. And so he literally got dirty, right? I mean, if you watched him play his jersey, he would, by the third inning, you'd think somebody had dragged him along behind a tractor sometimes. He was consistently the dirtiest, I'm talking about physically, player in baseball, right? He would find a way to get dirty on AstroTurf, or bloody or something, right? There was always something on him, seemingly every game he played of his career. At least I didn't see every game, but I saw a lot of games. And so has anyone ever played harder? I mean, not that I can remember. If maybe there is somebody who played harder and I just didn't see them. Maybe they're before my time or something. But I never saw a player play harder. I never saw somebody more committed to giving every bit of themselves, every iota of themselves to the game. And even his great unpardonable sin was a sin of competitiveness, right? From what I'm understanding, so when Peter Edward Reese Sr., right, because he has a son who played in the minors, 2 sons. I think he played minor league baseball, actually. I think of it. But, he came through all the things that he came through. This, if you just saw him as a collection of his parts as a player, you'd be somewhat impressed. But the only way to truly appreciate him was to see him play the game. His stats don't, though as amazing as his stats are, they don't quite tell the story. He has all these records, but they don't quite tell the story. His, hat flying off and the filthy jersey and the breaking up double teams and the getting the key bunt and hitting a triple when a triple was needed and stealing a base when a base needed to be stolen. And though he was an above average, about elite fielder, he would somehow make a great defensive play when a great defensive play needed to be made. He was Rookie of the Year. He obviously was a World Series champion in his career 3 times over. He's won the Silver Slugger. He's won 3 batting.
I was starting to fall asleep here now.
I'm going to wrap it up in a second. He obviously won the MVP. He's a 2-time Gold Glover, a 17-time All-Star, back when that really meant something. But to me, still the thing that most encapsulates him was the fact that even when his physical skills began to diminish, he would go out there and give every single iota of himself to the game. So my memories will always be of him, as I think was just put, bouncing into the base. The fearlessness and the brio and the panache with which he played the game, even beyond his simply incredible numbers. But yes, that's how I will remember Peter Edward Rose Jr.
Don, no Justin Verlander for the Astros, and the Tigers knock him out in 2. What happened, Don?
Hey, Tigers played ball when they needed to. That's all I can say. I think I mentioned this before on this program in the past. My dad grew up in a small town in North Texas back in the 1930s, 1940s, and at night, when the sun went down, the radio station could only pick up several AM stations, and one of them was Detroit. And my dad, till the day he died, was a Detroit Tiger fan. He could name the starting lineup from 1949 Detroit Tigers baseball team. He just had amazing memory. I remember when he was in the hospice, I'd come in and he'd say, "Did Detroit win today?" So I'd get the newspaper and I'd go look it up. Yeah, they did, Dad. Cecil Fielder went 3 for 4 or whatever. So, the fact that Detroit beat Houston doesn't bother me one bit because my dad's happy somewhere in heaven.
That's a great memory there, Don. Dave, who was the closest in our predictions? It ended up with Ohtani ended up with 54 and 59.
Yeah, I did not record the predictions on the number of homers and stolen bases, but man, that was quite a finish. I had, at one point, I think I had predicted something like 54 and 56, but that was early on, and then I revised my prediction, and I thought he might have an additional home run or 2. But what a great player. We're talking about Pete Rose now. Ohtani is doing something that really Pete Rose didn't do, which was to be a good pitcher and a batter at the same time. And, he didn't pitch this year, but what they're saying is that, he had his surgery, and basically the plan was for him to bat this year, not to pitch, but he should be ready to pitch in 2025. And so I guess the question becomes with Ohtani, should he pitch in 2025, or should he just focus on batting and base running? But whatever he chooses to do, I think that he's doing something that at least maybe Bill knows somebody comparable, but I don't know anybody that's comparable to what Ohtani has been able to do.
I mean, the closest would be a Negro leaguer named Ted Double Duty Ratcliffe, who at one point Ted Williams said was one of the greatest baseball players he ever saw. And Double Duty was a guy who won, depending on whose records you believe, perhaps as many, if you count like Winter League and things like that, over about 244 games as a pitcher. If you count like literally every place, he pitched everywhere. He pitched all year round for somebody. So you add his Negro League plus his Mexican or Dominican or whatever league, or even in Cuba, they played Cuba in those days too. I got to talk to Double Duty. He retired here in Chicago and lived out. He lived almost 100 years old. He lived in 98 or something, and he was a raconteur and a lech. That's the word, an absolute lech. Also, to the very end. Even when he was quite near the end, if an attractive nurse walked by, he would proposition her. So shout out to Ted Double Duty Ratcliffe wherever he is now. But he was an amazing.
I think you just made him my hero, Bill. I'm not sure.
Well, I have some published interviews I wrote about my. And I was actually working on a play with my late co-writer named Sati Word, and it was fictionalized, but he was going to be one of the main characters in a play we were writing called "Playing Out the String" about the later days of the Negro Leagues. After years after Jackie had integrated, there were guys who, for whatever reason, were not going to get that opportunity, and they had to.
The great August Wilson wrote. What was the one? Danzel did it as a movie.
Well, you talking about Fences with Troy Maxson?
Yeah, Fences.
Troy Maxson is who was loosely based on Josh Gibson. Yes.
Yeah. Living in Pittsburgh at the time, I recognized all those places, the little jitney stands and all that up on the hill.
Up on the hill,
yeah. Don, you got any thing you want to add to that? What's your take on Verlander?
Verlander. Well,
I mean, not Verlander. Ohtani.
Yeah, Ohtani. I mean, that guy has injected some new life in baseball that's been much needed. Baseball, to me, of the three major sports, is the one that is kind of the ebb and flow. I mean, it peaks and valleys, whatever metaphor you want to use. But I think he injected a lot of excitement, kind of like Caitlin Clark did for women's basketball. I mean, people are now watching. When he's on TV, they're watching to see if he'll do it. So I think it's great for the sport.
Yeah, baseball has been revived, as you said, especially out here on the West Coast. The Padres made the playoffs. I mean, we got that kid named Tatis. We moved him into right field, and he hit. I know he hit a 2-run home run yesterday to start off the series, and we beat the Braves 4-0. But like you said, Don, Ohtani has revolutionized the game. People, now, not that the Dodgers wasn't popular before, but now, like people are really, like you said, is he going to pitch? Is he going to bat? Is he going to do both? I mean, so we'll see come next season. Gotta talk about the Pirates there, Dave. The Pirates fired their hitting coaches and their bullpen coaches, but were they just sacrificial lambs instead of firing the actual coach and maybe even the general manager?
Well, I mean, they were going to need to make a change with the hitting coach anyway. I mean, the Pirates just were not able to support their pitchers the way that they needed to. And I know that and this might have actually been before Andy Haynes was the batting coach, but I know just a season or two ago, there were Pirate players that wanted to go to a minor league batting coach, and the team did not allow them to. And it's just that the hitting coach that they had, was ineffectual. And I think that Andy Haynes continued that. Now, the Pirates do have this Eric Munson, who's with the Indianapolis Indians, who's supposed to be a great hitting coach. So maybe that's somebody that.
And he can't do a guy named Thurman?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, he wouldn't be his son. I mean,
No.
he could be his grandson, because Thurman Munson, he was killed in 1979. I want to say, and but I don't know if he's actually related. But then with the pitching coach, this Justin McCage, he's been in the Pirates organization since 2011. But he's been only the bullpen coach for the last 2 seasons. And David Bednar, who's great closer, they had to remove him from closing responsibilities. So they need to make the changes with the bullpen coach as well as the hitting coach. Now, whether they need to make a change with the manager, that's a different thing. The Pirates, despite having Scanes and Ortiz and some improved pitching, they just managed to have the exact same record that they had last year. No improvement. So if they do that again next year, then I would say he probably needs to walk the plank himself. But more than that, who Pirates fans would like to see a change with, and it's not going to be happening, but it's with the owner.
Right.
They just, Pirates fans do not have confidence in the owner.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we'll see what changes are made. All right, guys. We do have some changes made in college football, and those of you that watched, like me, saw a great game.
Right.
Georgia versus Alabama. If there had been another 15 minutes, who knows what might have happened. But in this case, Alabama came out on top. It beat the University of Georgia, and it takes over the number 1 spot in the AP poll.
Right.
But the rankings are split, as Texas is still remains number 1 in the coaches poll. So, Don, you got a problem with this?
Well, I was telling some friends today, because we always talk football at work. I don't care where Texas is ranked right now.
Right.
In the era of playoffs, you just need to be in the top 12. I'm sure Texas will be in the top 12, and then then they have to earn that championship. But if I were to just rank on the top of my head, I would probably put Alabama number 1, because that was a big win against Georgia. I'd probably have Texas at number 2. I mean, I try to be fair. But the teams, the SEC is it's going to be exciting this year, because you got a team like Kentucky, who should have beat Georgia.
Yep.
And then they went to Mississippi and beat Ole Miss. And so, Kentucky is, they're probably play spoilers. So, SEC is going to be very interesting. There's still a lot of games to play. I mean, Texas only has 1 SEC game under their belt. They beat Mississippi State, but it's from here on out. It's rough waters for Texas. So we'll see.
Yeah,
By the way, Arch Manning had the highest PPF Brady, we need quarterback this week.
Yep.
And he's the backup. He's the backup.
Yeah.
Is yours back?
Ewers will be
Next-
back next
Yeah.
week. Texas has an off week this week. He'll be next week against Oklahoma.
Right. For the Red River rivalry. Yep. He'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the date I would circle is October 19th because Texas plays Georgia.
Yep.
And then it'll, that would be a nice comparison game, but also Alabama plays Tennessee, who's up there. So October 19th should be an interesting date for the SEC.
And see, I can't forget about Tennessee. Tennessee's tough too. I mean,
Yep.
And LSU will probably, LSU's kind of down, but they'll beat some people they shouldn't beat. So it's very competitive.
And Don, what are you doing the Friday after next around this same time, sir?
I will be getting prepped.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, good luck with that. I will have to try to invite you on my college football forecast show another time. But I would love to have you on to talk about the Red River rivalry game.
So, yeah. Friday, yeah. Just send me the link.
I will. We'll talk more. Sorry, James. But we will definitely.
I mean, I love it. When you plug your show, so when plug mine when you get on there.
Oh yeah. Well, when I introduce Don, I'll have to talk about how I know him. So yeah, that will definitely be part of the intro. Also, shoot me a short bio, Don, as well. But back to what we're talking about. As Don pointed out, the rankings are going to change 147 times between now and when it really matters. Anyway,
well, Bill, I want you to talk about OSU because they're number 3. And I want you to talk about them. They got this freshman kid, Jeremiah Smith.
Who I think hasn't turned 18 yet. Is that right?
I think he's still 17.
I think he has not yet turned 18. And this is people complain about lots of things. There's lots of things to complain about. But with kids reclassifying, now sometimes they reclassify down, which always concerns me because it creates this unrealistic expectation. This kid's dominating, but he's 19, right? A lot of these kids, Calvin Ridley was one of those kids that reclassified down, right? He repeated a grade, so he's competing when he was in 9th grade against, he was 15 and a half, competing against a bunch of other 9th graders. But that's whatever. The point is that now we see kids reclassifying in the other direction, reclassifying up. So they're playing against a higher level of competition based on their age. And the good news, if you care about talent evaluation, is breakout age is probably the second most predictive thing in terms of whether a person has a good chance of succeeding as a professional. So, he's an exciting prospect in a bunch of different ways. They haven't really been tested yet, obviously. So we'll find out who they really are pretty soon. And then, we'll be able to really judge them. But the good news is they've got a secondary. They usually have a good secondary. They always have good wide receivers, at least not say always in the recent history of the program have good wide receivers. I can remember a time when you couldn't even name their wide receiver because all they did was block. But now in the recent history of the school, they tend to have good wide receivers. They have two NFL type running backs. The jury is not 100% in on other parts of the team, like the trenches are still a little up in the air. Tiamalao is a guy that's going to play on Sundays, but I don't know how many of the rest of the defensive linemen are NFL quality. But like I said, we'll find out soon. It is now October, and the facades will be ripped away from the pretenders very quickly.
Dave, any team? Penn State won also this week. They beat was it Utah?
Illinois. I thought Illinois. It was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're what they should. Number one, their kicker was missing field goals. Their defense stepped up, but not a lot of offense. But Illinois, I think, was 19th ranked when the game was played. So it's not as if they're an absolute patsy. But I think Penn State has a way to go. They're ranked probably at the right place. They're around 7th, I think. But need to see this offense get cranked up. They're due to play UCLA next, I believe. And it's going to be interesting to see how these former Pac-10 teams fare in the Big Ten. Because it's just going to be interesting. They're not used to kind of like playing in the Big Ten. It might be a little bit different style of football, and it'll be interesting to see how it matches up. The other team I'll mention is Pitt. And, they're going to be opening up their ACC conference schedule with a game against North Carolina. Now, North Carolina hasn't been very strong, but this is a conference game, and it's going to be important for Pitt, for Holstein to, impress the rest of the team. Hey, we're for real. We had 2 close games where we had to come back against Cincinnati, had to come back against West Virginia, and won those 2 games. But how are they going to look against their ACC competition? And it'll be interesting that it's North Carolina, because the expectation should be, if you're a good team, you should roll over them. So we'll see what Pitt does.
All right. I see Mr. Scott has joined us, as I predicted, of course. We knew that Mr. Scott would be here, but unfortunately, we have no Demetrius, and we have, as I said, Reggie is in Barcelona. So, Mr. Scott, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing very good. Enjoying the last vestiges of summer. It's been 75, 80 degrees here. It's been very very good. I was hoping though that Bo, the elusive Bo, would be on, because I wanted to know about the Geno Smith administration. I wanted to know how that administration is playing out in Seattle. If they still believe in it, if fans are still behind it. I mean, a lot of times people, you get one loss, and then everybody wants to jump off the bandwagon. So I was very curious about how the Geno Smith administration is doing in Seattle.
Yeah, I was too, but unfortunately, Bo's not here, but he is streaming us, so that we appreciate that.
He's getting his system worked on. So who knows?
And Dave, I see, is also streaming us. So, Mr. Scott, we were talking a little college football here, and we were talking about the 2 polls. One has Texas as number 1, the coaches poll, and that's the one I think has the most pull. But maybe that's just me. But and then they had the AP poll, of course, which has Alabama number 1 after they're beating Georgia. Now, my question to you, Mr. Scott, I don't know whether you've looked at Georgia's schedule, but they're getting ready to go through a pretty tough stretch here with a 12-team playoff. Do you think that 2-loss Georgia will still make the playoffs? And that's assuming that they only lose one more game.
Yeah, that's a lot of assumption. And losing that big one to Alabama, if they get 2 losses, yeah, I mean, I think they'll still be. I think they'll still be up there rating as top team. But I haven't looked that closely at their schedule to see who else could knock them off. I think there's someone in their division that might be able to do that. But yeah, if it's a 2-loss, sure.
What do you think Dave?
Well, I mean, they're playing Texas, and if it's 2 losses in the regular season, then are they going to have to win the Southeast? They could end up with 3 losses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I don't know. They still might get in. Like if they're in the SEC final and they lose the SEC final, they still might get in with 3 losses.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, I mean, I hope they don't. If they lose 3 games, I hope they don't get it. Now, some of this dependent upon what other quote unquote top teams do or don't do. We know that now there's going to be a group of 5 schools that by virtual winning their conference are promised or guaranteed or whatever a spot. We know that the Power 4, I guess it's now the 4.7. I don't know. We'll see what it is. We'll see what's in the Pac-12. But those teams are essentially each one of those top conference winners is promised a spot. And I still believe whatever team comes out, if one of the teams that's in the Pac solve for X ends up being a 10-win team, I think probably one of them, especially if they have some quality wins, ends up in. So that accounts for essentially right around half or just over half of the 12. So now is there 1 or 2 schools that end up running the table, right? Even if they aren't a conference champion. Is there a team that runs the table? Who runs the table, if Memphis wins their conference and they don't lose a game until they get to the conference championship, will people look at them, even though they have less respect for that conference than they have for the SEC, say this team, went undefeated through the regular season and then got knocked off by, I don't know, Cincinnati or whoever it is that might knock them off. Not Cincinnati, they're in the Big 12. But whoever might knock them off, knocks them off in the championship. Will one of the non-power conferences get more than one team in? The answer is probably no. Whether they should or shouldn't, right? If there's a great Mountain West team that barely loses on a last-second field goal in their conference championship game, they'd probably end up getting screwed. So that would be what would allow Georgia to possibly get in with 3 losses, but I don't think that'll happen. I think there'll be enough good teams that have 1 loss and enough highly respected teams, whether they're good or not, that have 2 or fewer losses, that it'll prevent that from happening. So for me, it would take there being few to no undefeated teams and the only 1-loss teams available being, once again, conference champions, right? Who are guaranteed spots. And then the other teams in those conferences having, once again, 3 or more losses. So that then opens the door for Georgia. But I think if there's a scenario where there's teams with quality wins who have 1 or 0 losses, that would prevent that from happening.
Don, what do you think?
Yeah, we're kind of entering uncharted territory. So, if a 3-loss team makes the playoffs, it'll probably be an SEC team. But I definitely think we'll have at least 1 2-loss team in the playoffs. I don't know about 3. That might be stretching it, but it depends on who they lose to. I mean, you got to factor that in. I just know if Kentucky had pulled off the upset a couple weeks ago,
right,
we would be having this discussion.
Nope.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I would like to add Bo in here too, so we could talk a little bit about Oregon. But Bill, you probably know a little bit about Oregon.
Sure.
And they're number 6 in both polls.
Yep.
What do you think about the Oregon? And maybe you could tell us something about what's happening with the Pac-12. It seems. Who was it? Was it UNLV that just turned them down?
Yeah. Well, UNLV has turned them down, I think, twice now. Okay. But my understanding is that there's still back-channel negotiations ongoing. Like in the Cuban Missile Crisis, how they both said, right? Oh, no, we will destroy you. We're going to bomb you back to the Stone Age. And then secretly, there's still negotiations going on. Bobby King's like, I know you heard what Jack said, but let's talk. Still talk. So I think it's sort of like with that I think UNLV wants some specific promises in essence, and probably even some help with buying themselves out of their current conference. But
She called the assistant coach. He knows how to make deals.
Yeah, yes, indeed. My guess is at some point, if they don't get UNLV, they'll find someone who is maybe the next on their list. I do think they get to at least 8 teams, and I think their goal is to try to get back maybe even up to 9 or 10. But I'll be surprised if they don't get to 8 and get to 8 soon. Okay. That's my prediction is that they get to at least 8.
And Oregon, are people sleeping on Oregon at number 6?
Not people who know football. When has Oregon not been a good football team in recent? I mean, Mike Bellotti, from Mike Bellotti forward, they've been a competitive program. I mean, I remember when they were just kind of look how cute they are. But when Bellotti got there, you saw this team start in the right direction. And then when Chip Kelly comes over from New Hampshire, stops being a head coach at another school to become a coordinator at Oregon, you saw Oregon really begin to become the Oregon that we now think of, with all the up tempo and really a simple offense, but lots of motions and lots of eye candy. And they still have kept, even with the changes in coaching staff, from Bellotti to Kelly, and then from Kelly to Helfrich, and from Helfrich to Cristobal, and Cristobal now to Lanning. Despite all those changes, you still see they've kept some of those fun duck. I don't know what they call their offense. I call it the run and duck offense. They've kept a fair amount of those elements. There's still some like wing T-ish run stuff, and even some veer-ish run stuff mixed in with spread passing elements. And so yeah, it's a fun, interesting offense to watch. But to me, the big difference is Oregon on defense. The Oregon defense I've seen thus far. Now we'll see once again. Obviously, they're going to play better and better teams as it goes along. But if they're a top 30 defense in college football, and they are who they continue to be and have been on offense, they are a legitimate threat to win the Big Ten. And I'd say that without any hesitation. They have a legitimate chance to beat any other school they'll face this year. If, once again, with the caveat that their defense is actually as good as it's looked so far. But we don't know that yet, right? They still have to see them go up against a team that is closer to them in terms of actual talent. But the preseason, or what we're going to call it, is now over in college football. Though they claim they don't have a preseason, they kind of sort of do. The scores count, right? And the stats.
No more Kent States and the Colorado University Colorado Mines, whatever.
Yeah, all that is over, right? They'll now be playing what I call name brand. They'll be playing name brand programs from this point forward, and so now we'll get to see if that defense is as good as it's looked. But if that defense is as good as it's looked so far, if this is legit, yes, they have a legitimate chance. I could see them being a 1 or 2 loss team, but possibly, if everything goes right, could they run the table? Sure. I mean, they have some things in their schedule that may slightly help them, but they do have to play a good team.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, let's go through our NFL games here. Let's see. Thursday night, we'll start with that one. The Cowgirls, they lackluster offense. They won 20-15. I mean, the game was really boring. Both teams combined for a total of 12 points in the second half. Don, you want to talk about? I mean, it was a win, but yeah.
Hey, the season just started.
Yep.
And it's going to be a very long season for the Cowboys. It's going to be very long. Because I'm looking at the schedule and just the way they're underperforming right now, I'm seeing several losses that in the preseason were counted as wins, but I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be bad, and Jerry will fire people. He'll go in all season, make stupid decisions with his players. He'll screw up the draft. And Cowboy fans will be like, yeah, well, this year, 2025 will be our year. So that's the story.
Young Hoku, he nailed
Young
a
Hova.
he nailed a 58-yard game-winning field goal. The Falcons get their first home win against the Saints. Remember when we talked about the Saints when they scored 91 points in 2 games? Well, guys, is it time for the Saints to come down from the clouds, Dave?
Well, I think that their division right now is going to be a three-way race. I think it's going to be an interesting race between the Saints, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay. And now, if the Rusty Red Rifle comes on, you could even get a fourth team in there. But really, I wouldn't count them out yet, because their conference is not super strong. And I think that they should be competitive within their division. So hey, I would still give the Saints a little bit of time, and the Falcons, and I talked about this last week. They're not the same team that we saw week 1. That was their preseason game, and talking about preseason games. So no, I wouldn't count the Saints out yet.
It's the Rusty Rifle.
Yeah, what did I say?
Yeah, Rusty Rifle.
Yeah, well,
Rusty Red Rifle, right?
Well, we have several. Rusty Musket. We have several names. Unlike ayahuasca, he only has one, but we have some that have a few different names. But Mr. Scott, what do you think? Is it time for the Saints to come down from them clouds or what?
Well, they scored so many points those first 2 games. The offense was looking great. And, I mean, what the heck? You get beat by a 58-yard field goal. I mean, that's kind of lucky there. So, no. And I think I agree with the others. It's a pretty competitive division. Tampa Bay, they still seem like they've got a strong team. They it's just like I was saying earlier about the Geno Smith thing, that some people seem to get off of a team as soon as they have a loss, and it is early yet. But right now that division looks pretty competitive, and I think the Saints should be right in it. I don't really trust much of Atlanta. I probably like them least of the teams we've talked about in that division, but we'll see.
What do you think there, Don?
Hey, that game I watched just shows that the old thing about any given Sunday something can happen. To me, Atlanta is a team that I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this year. I mean, of course, I'm a Bijan fan, but I think that they're going to surprise more people as the year goes on.
Bill?
To me, as their defense goes, so goes the Falcons. They have a lot of talent on offense, so people focus on that. People focus on, the enigmatic Kyle Pitts. They focus on Bijan. They focus on their wide receiver core, which has a lot of talent in it as well. Drake London, Darnell Mooney. They focus on a whole lot of different things. Tyler Algier could start for 10 teams, probably more in the NFL at running back. And he's essentially in a backup role. They have a lot of talent. But to me, like I said, if their defense plays like that every week, they are going to be in that dogfight mix. Only one team to me is truly sort of eliminated from that mix in their conference. So it could easily be a 3-team race. I still think at some point the top 2 will end up being the Saints and Tampa Bay sort of fighting up at the top spot. But the Falcons' defense, to me, is the determinant thing. If their defense is forcing turnovers, if a defense is getting teams off the field on not just third and long, but even third and short, as they did in this situation. They managed to contain Alvin Kamara. They managed to not give up big plays to Olave, because in all the games up to this point, you saw that sort of body blow, bam, right? There were games where I think Derek Dallas Carr only had like 15, 16, 17 like that attempts, but 228 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 2 of them bombs to Olave. So they have talent in their secondary, right? I mean, AJ Terrell's a really terrific young corner. They have some talent in their secondary. They're able to take away some of those deep shots. But I don't know how often their defense will look that good, but every time their defense looks like that, they're going to win.
Okay. All right. Bill, the Bears remain undefeated at home as the defense steals the victory with the game sealing interception. The Rams are still winless on the road, losing 24-18. Bill, the number 1 draft choice for the Bears, Caleb Williams was 17 for 23, 457 yards. Bill, I'm still questioning what's happening with the young man here. What's going on?
He's a rookie, James.
Okay.
That's what's going on. He is a rookie. So with the exceptions of Dan Marino, maybe to some extent, Andrew Luck,
CJ Stroud.
But see, Coach Bernard Stroud the fourth is exactly the exception that proves the rule, right? So essentially 3 times in 40 years, we've seen a rookie, come out and just look like a top 10 quarterback. But that's not the norm. It's not what you expect. It's exactly the opposite. Most rookie quarterbacks look like rookie quarterbacks. And guess what? He's a rookie quarterback.
Okay.
It took Justin Fields until this point in his career to look like the guy that people were expecting him to be. I think we need to just remind ourselves if we can, just how young a lot of these rookie quarterbacks are. This guy spent 3 years in college. And
go ahead.
I'm just saying he's now in the NFL, seeing for the first time some of the things he's seeing going on in the secondary. The offensive line is, shocker, not good. They have some good skills position talent. They do have, Cole Kimmett's an up-and-coming young tight end. Their running back tandem, which they haven't really figured out, but they have some talent there. Swift has talent. Roshan Johnson has talent. And they're underutilizing, in my opinion, Khalil Herbert. But all 3 of those guys are talented running backs. I'd say above average in terms of pure physical talent. Their wide receiver core, I think, is a little actually overrated. I think Rome Odunze will be very good, but he's young. Keenan Allen, I'm not saying he's a shot fighter exactly, but he's not as quick in and out of his breaks as he was. He's not the guy he once was. And even when he was the guy that he was a guy that got away with it sort of with technique. He was never a guy that was supremely physically talented anyway. And now I think he's lost a little bit of flexibility. I think his joints
Mr. Scott is he got a team in that division, and I think Mr. Scott thinks that you're just making a bunch of excuses, but I might be wrong. What do you say there, Mr. Scott?
Well, I mean, I think they're the bottom of the division. I think that's when you look at the Vikings, who, they're rated, I think, on some polls as the number 1 team so far in the NFL. The Lions number 3. So, the Bears are to me, they're right now they're at the bottom of this division.
You agree, Don?
Yeah, I hate to agree with that, but yeah, I think they are destined to be at the bottom.
And what do you think about young Caleb? Are you buying? Bill. He's a rookie, and the whole thing. The bad line. Receivers. What do you think? The number 1, that number 1, draft pick. Did we expect too much or what?
Well, I mean, being a rookie quarterback in the NFL has its ups and downs. We've talked about how Troy Aikman struggled his first year, Peyton Manning struggled his first year. These are guys in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to say Caleb Williams is that category because at the end of the day, he's still painting his fingernails black. So I just think that the ills that the Bills have right now, that the Bears have right now are many. They're probably a few draft classes away from being competitive. And you have to right front office, and I don't know if the Bears have that right now to put it all together. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think Bill's comments were very Demetrius-like. The glass full, half full. You can make a lot of arguments for both. That's just my take on it. This seems to be very Demetrius in the ideology of those statements.
It's a rookie quarterback. I mean, I don't know what people think rookie quarterbacks tend to look like.
Here's the thing I'd like to point out about in that game is that
go ahead, Dave.
You had a veteran quarterback, well-established quarterback, and a rookie quarterback. One quarterback threw the interception that basically ended their possibility of winning the game and also lost the fumble. Normally, you would associate that with a rookie quarterback, but it was the veteran that did that. And so I think the most important statistic for Caleb in that game, no turnovers,
right?
Because that was the difference in the game.
Yep.
He's going to be under the microscope all season long. We got another 13 games or whatever it is, and in each game he's going to be evaluated. But the big thing is, don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And he didn't do that. So to me that's a positive.
Well, Dave, I'm going to stick with you because it wasn't Anthony Richardson. It was that goddamn Joe Flacco again. Okay? I mean, he knocked us out of the unbeaten ranks. Flacco was 16 out of 26, 136 yards, but 2 TDs. Okay? Yep. Our quarterback, Justin Fields, was 22 out of 34, 312 yards, and only 1 TD. First of all, I don't think that our quarterback should be throwing 34 times, but that's just me. Maybe me and Reggie will have Arthur Smith conversation. But anyway, Davis, Dave, tell us what's going on. Our first loss here.
First of all, I'll say this. There was no plan for Justin Fields to throw 34 times. When you go down 17-0, right. Then you're going to have to start throwing the ball. And he did, and he did very well.
Right.
But, first credit to the Colts. I thought that they came in with a really nice game plan. And even with Anthony Richardson, he nearly threw an interception on his first pass.
Right.
But he was in on their first 2 scoring drives. Now, he wasn't able to finish the second one because he was knocked out of the game. He hurt his hip once. And I don't know why they brought him back in, but they did. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick hit him, and then he was done for the day. But the Colts, I thought, had a good plan, and they came out very aggressive on defense, shut down the run. And they were going to prove, hey, can Justin Fields throw the ball? And the Steelers didn't cooperate in the first half. Until maybe the last drive, when they did get a field goal to end it. But it was really a lot of miscues on the part of the Steelers. Mm-hmm. Joey Porter drops an interception in the end zone, and then that results in another 3 points for the Colts. the Steelers drive from their own 4-yard line all the way to the 15, pass the ball to George Pickens at the 5, and he's holding the ball like a loaf of bread and loses it, and the Colts recover the ball. That's at least 3 points, possibly 7 points that costs the Steelers. You had Justin Fields trying to do too much. He started to regress a little bit in this game where he was holding on to the ball and then trying to do too much. So a Colts defender came in undefended. He tried to scramble, and he ended up turning the ball over. It was a close thing, but he should have gone to ground. He was still trying to make a play, just like George Pickens was trying to make a play whenever he fumbled. Both of them are very competitive, but the smart thing would have been to go to the ground with the ball, take the loss. And then there was another muffed center quarterback exchange at the end of the game. And still the Steelers could have pulled it out. Even with that muffed quarterback exchange, he throws the ball to Najee Harris, and Najee Harris isn't able to get out of bounds before a Colts defender knocks him backward. And under the NFL rules, if you're knocked backward and go out of bounds, the clock keeps ticking. And so now they were with 4th down, and I think that they only had one timeout, but I think that Tomlin should have used that timeout at that point. It was a 4th down play, but instead they went hurry up, and the ball, I think he tried to pass it to Van Jefferson and went incomplete. So really the defense gave up 10 fourth-quarter points. The Steelers just, I don't know if they came into that game overconfident or what, but a lot of miscues on their part. And kudos to the Colts because they hung on for the win. They did what they had to do to win.
Okay. All right. Mr. Scott, the Raiders hold on to beat the Clowns 20-18. Mr. Massage was 24 out of 32 for 128 yards. 128 yards, Mr. Scott. Yeah, well, he did throw a TD though. But the Clowns are now 1-3, and the Raiders are 2-2.
Well, Cleveland, just as Dave was saying about the Colts. I mean, why do people keep treating Joe Flacco like a Dollar Tree quarterback? I mean, they should have kept him for one. I mean, the guy he's just still not ready. He sat off too long, and you just see it. I mean, his reaction time, everything. He just looks bad. So I don't know that we're going to expect more out of them. I mean, I had hopes Mr. Massage could kind of turn it around, but he's digging himself a hole now. And seems to me it's just a matter of games or two where he'll be hurt. He won't be able to play. The old injury excuse. But yeah, I think they shouldn't have kept Blanco. I don't understand why people are just bouncing around. They keep saying he's done. And even when he shows you he still has something there, I think he had to almost beg for a job with Indianapolis. I think he had to wait almost until camp started. So yeah, I don't know what Stefanski's going to do to pull out of this because he's stuck with an albatross.
What do you think, Don?
He stepped away, James.
Bill.
Two things leap to mind. One, Amari Cooper, and then name someone else you really trust to throw the ball to on the Cleveland roster.
Judy.
Yeah.
He's outperformed Cooper in a couple games.
Right. I agree, but I think that's because Judy is the guy that usually draws the tougher cover. I don't dislike Jerry Jeudy. He's a solid number 2. I've even drafted Jerry Jeudy in some leagues, but he doesn't really scare me. Cooper and Jeudy together are a solid 1-2 punch, but they aren't guys that terrify you, either of them, as a defensive game planner. Mr. Ford, Jerome Ford, has filled in, I'd say, admirably for Nick Chubb, but he's clearly not Nick Chubb. Their defense, I believe, is taking a step back. But as everyone has noticed, Deshaun Watson is not the guy who once was a legitimate threat to win the MVP. He looks more tentative as a runner. He looks confused as a passer. He is either unwilling or unable to find people deep down the field anymore, which at one point he's one of the better deep ball passers in the league, right? I mean, at times, even a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who's not exactly a speedster, would make big plays deep down the field off of the arm of Deshaun Watson. So I don't know if he's still working through things mentally, like he's still sort of thinking about what the world says and thinks about him. I don't know, because for those that remember, at one point he had a really great reputation. He was a guy that was deeply involved in Habitat for Humanity. He's had himself at one point when he was with his younger brother and his mother, lived in a Habitat for Humanity's home that had been donated by Warwick Dunn. He had this incredibly beautiful story and was seen as, a guy who would probably one day win the Walter Payton Man of the Year award at one point. And now he was quite literally the butt of, name a joke, right? Who hadn't made a joke about him?
Even we have a name for him. So yeah, you're right.
And I promise you, some of his own teammates probably did. So I can't help but think that also must play a part in it. Just him knowing that every time he takes the field, somebody's going to put something on Instagram or Twitter /X or whatever, name of social media about him. And people in the store sort of point and laugh. I assume he's still working through some of that, but mostly, as was pointed out by almost everyone, he looks rusty. He still looks rusty. He still looks like a guy that is seeing things half a second later than he used to.
What do you think, Don? Not your back.
I think that we've seen a huge decline in I don't know if it's mental, if it's physical, but Watson's just not the guy he was when he was, in Houston. I think Cleveland has ingredients on that team to be a lot more competitive than they have been. Cleveland's always been kind of a blue-collar type team. They've always been even back in the 70s, they were giving Pittsburgh hell. But I don't know. I used to be a big Deshaun Watson fan, but I don't know what's going on over there.
Our whole division is nothing but blue collar. Cincinnati, Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. I don't think they could drop a steal in any of those cities now. But anyway, that's another story, altogether different. But Dave, all I care about is them being 1-3. All the rest of that doesn't, I could care less. But
Yeah, well, one of the things in what's hurting Deshaun Watson even more is they've had a lot of injuries on their offensive line. Their offensive line has been decimated, actually worse than the Steelers. And the Steelers have a lot of injuries on their offensive line. Right. Cleveland's in actually worse shape in that case. But he's been back there. It's 3 years. This is his third season with Cleveland. And to me, it's he's lost it. I remember seeing him in a preseason game a couple of years ago, and it was like balls were hitting in the ground at the receiver's feet or flying over their head. And so I don't think that he's the same quarterback that he was, and I don't know if he's going to be able to brush that rust off. It might be too thick. And I agree with Anthony. They should have kept Joe Flacco. They did not offer. They didn't even offer Joe Flacco a contract last year after bailing the team out. And then go back to Baker Mayfield. They should have kept Baker Mayfield, who played hurt for them.
Yeah.
And it just, the mistake on the leg. I mean, they just stuck with this guy, and I mean, this might be the worst contract that's ever been done.
I don't know. Bobby Bonnilla's family is still getting paid. I don't know. It might be close to it though. But
well, did he have any championships?
Bobby Bonilla?
Yeah,
I don't think so. I think it's no. I can't remember him having any. No,
I mean, because that's what they're being paid to do, is to win championships.
Yeah. Mr. Scott, let's talk about your Vikings here. What are they, 4-0? They Sam Darnold is the darling of the realm right now. The Vikings undefeated, holding on to beat their rival, the Packers, 31-29. The Packers scored 22 points in the fourth quarter, Mr. Scott. Are you concerned about your defense? Jordan Love, he threw 54 passes, completed 32 of them for over 300 yards. He had 4 TDs, but he also had 3 interceptions. So what are you thinking here, Mr. Scott?
Well, it's always a good win over a division rival. That's a good win. I always circle one of those games with the Packers. But yeah, it's very concerning. The fourth quarter, I don't know what happened to Flores' defense. I mean, I don't know if it was the secondary. They weren't putting on any pressure. I mean, it just seemed like once they got the lead, they just kind of laid back. So that's somewhat concerning. But again, it's a win, and I think they've got to go to somewhere overseas to play the Jets. I think it's like 8:30 in the morning.
London. I think they go to London.
London.
Yeah, 6 o'clock in the morning here, out here in California. So
yeah, so that'll be very interesting. They get a bye after that. So if they can come out of this 5-0, things are looking pretty good. And if Flores can get this defense back in shape, because everything else looks good. I mean, Darnold, Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, the backs, Addison was back, Naylor. They're going to get Hawkinson back. So everything is looking very, very good if things can continue along this way. And actually, I'm ahead in a bet with a gentleman that said his team was going to be better record than my team. And I told him I wouldn't offer him any buyouts, but I may take mercy on him at some point and make it $9.99 or something instead of 10, just to say he's gotten a break at it. But right now, we're in the driver's seat in a lot of things, in a lot of ways, a lot of people. I mean, all drinking off the hook right now. I mean, this is football headquarters right here in Minneapolis right now. So let's hope to keep this thing going in London, merry old London, Sunday.
Dave, we're going to have to hear this for a little while.
Demetrius isn't here.
So, Dave, the Broncos quarterback, Bo Nix, he got his first NFL TD. And the Broncos win 10-9. Bo Nix, he threw 25 passes, completed 12 of them for a whole 60 yards. But then again, the not yet's quarterback, Ayahuasca, he was 24 for 42. He threw for 225 yards. But the Broncos sacked him 5 times too, Dave. You still think that the not yets are contenders?
Well, it's scoring 9, 10 points. That's not going to do it. That's even less than the Steelers were scoring. But I tell you what, Aaron Rodgers, he's proving pretty durable. I was very concerned at the beginning of the season that he might not be able to finish this season because
He got
he was
sacked
coming
5
off that
times.
Achilles, and he got sacked 5 times, and he's coming up. He's playing the game, and so I think that Aaron he'll keep them competitive as long as he's able to sling the ball. I think that he could keep the Jets competitive. And if you look at their division, well, you got they're in there with Miami, right? They're in there with New England, right?
And
And then you got
Buffalo.
Buffalo. I mean, and Buffalo is the best team out of them, but they've been having some issues, and they just lost a player, I think, to suspension. So I think that what he offers is he makes them competitive. If he were hurt, then I'd stick a fork in him. But as long as they got Aaron Rodgers and he gets up from all these sacks, he's going to win them some games.
Okay. Bill, the Bucks convincingly clipped the Eagles' wings 33-16. Bucks quarterback Baker Mayfield threw 47 passes, completed 30 of them for 347 yards, 2 TDs. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, in contrast, he was 18 out of 30, 458 yards and 1 TD. So right now, Bill, the Bucks are 3-1, and the Eagles are 2-2. What's going on with them Eagles, Bill? Are we seeing another last year unfold?
Well, I would say no for a couple of reasons. I think the main thing is last year they looked great at this point in the season. So it was towards the end of the year they began to struggle. I think this year they're trying to get out of the box. They don't have Fletcher Cox. They don't have Kelsey anymore. So those are the two primary leaders on the team. The most equally as important is if you looked at the roster they trotted out the last game, neither Batman nor Skinny Batman took the field, right? So when they had neither Devontae Smith nor AJ Brown, it disrupted the way that you defend them, right? So there's always a threat of the deep ball, or usually, though they're a team that really wants to run the football, there's always the threat of the deep ball. And now that threat is removed. Now you know all the passes are going to be short in front of you. You can crowd. You can bring everybody down. You could sit on everything at 8 yards, basically. And if you have even an okay defense where there's no threat of the deep ball really ever in a game to worry about, you become a much smarter defensive game planner, right? You go from being solid, good, not too shabby, to being great. And one last thing, I don't know why people forget this. Todd Bowles is still, though he is a head coach, but he's still one of the best defensive minds in football and has been for 20 plus years. I remember when Todd Bowles was playing for Bruce Arians at Temple back in the day. He was a very good safety, but he has built a career on his acumen on defense.
I don't know.
And so if Tampa Bay continues, once again, like I sort of said with the Falcons, they're a better team than the Falcons, obviously. But if their defense looks like that, more games than not, they have a very good chance to win their division again. And I don't know why people automatically cooled on them. They didn't lose many important players off of the team. They a handful. They lost Carlton Davis, lost a few players, but for the most part, that is a largely intact team that just won the division. I don't get why people didn't see them being good again this year. People who cooled on them, I don't know why they did it. The Falcons will right the ship. They'll end up being probably a wild card team, but they'll end up righting the ship.
Okay, let's see. Dave, the Bungles quarterback, Joe Burrows, he threw for 2 TDs. He was 22 out of 31. He had 232 yards and an INT. In their what was that? Their first win of the season. The Panthers' Rusty Rifle, Andy Dalton, was 25 out of 40, 220 yards, 2 TDs, and also an interception. But mostly important, me once again, Dave, they're 1-3.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that they were going to be 0-4, but I think that Joe Burrow is another one that he's limbering up his arm. He was coming back from an elbow injury. He did throw an interception in this game, but so goes Joe Burrow, so goes the Cincinnati Bengals, and right now it looks like he's limbering up. We're going to have to see how they do in the next few games, because I think that they might start to win a few to try to climb back in. For the AFC North, the last half of the season is where it's all about. The NFL claimed that these teams having all of their division games at the very end of the season, all after week 10, was just a coincidence. And I guess it was just a coincidence that they're going to be on this TV show that's featuring the AFC North. So basically, the NFL sacrificed the parity in their scheduling around the league in order to make money. Really, but back to Cincinnati, we'll have. I think that Joe Burrow, he's looking like the old Joe Burrow, and if he is, then I think that Cincinnati could climb back into the race.
Okay, Don, C.J. Stroud, he throws a pass with 18 seconds left on the clock to lift the Texans over the Jaguars. The Texans hadn't scored in the second half until that last touchdown. As a matter of fact, they had punted 5 times straight. Don, does this speak to the maturity of the young Texan quarterback?
Well, he had such a great season last year, and expectations are out the roof for him this year. And the Texans have been kind of struggling here and there, but I think that maybe that game will be the turnaround that they've been looking for. Like I said, they haven't been quite as sharp as they were last year, and they have what they call a sophomore slump. Maybe he's experiencing that, but I'm a big Stroud fan, so I'm hoping that the rest of the season goes like it did last year, because that was fun to watch. But I think the Texans will do just fine.
Something I wanted to add real quick, Don, is that they've had a couple poor showings.
Yes.
But they still managed to win, and for a team, you have to have that element in there to be successful. So I think that that's actually a positive, despite having some bad performances.
Yeah, I had a coach tell me one time in a situation like that, when you win, when you shouldn't win, he just said, "Well, you're living your life right."
That's good living, right?
Living your life, yeah.
Mr. Scott, the Commanders, rookie quarterback Jalen Daniels, he continues to impress with the convincing win over the world's tallest midget. The Commanders beat the Cardinals' wings. I mean, they clipped the Cardinals. Well, actually, they kind of tore them off, beating them 47-14. Mr. Scott, are you surprised that the Commanders are 3-1 and the tallest midget is kind of struggling?
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised by that 3-1. And I watched some of the game, and the world's tallest midget looks littler. I don't know why all of a sudden he looked like Billy Barty or Webster. I mean, he looked so little out there. I mean,
Webster.
there was a quarterback years ago when I was growing up that was a
Eddie
good
LeBaron.
pro, Eddie LeBaron.
Yep.
But I don't know that he ever won a championship or anything. I mean, I still think Rosales is a good quarterback. He's very mobile. He seems to have a very good arm. But I mean, he might have to retire and go to Hollywood and pick up the roles of Hervé Villachaize and Gary Coleman because he just looks very small out there to me. Is it just me? I mean, he really looks a lot smaller than the regular players out there.
Oh,
Hey, speaking of rookie quarterbacks, the Commanders seem to have a pretty little rookie quarterback.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
but according to Bill, he's the exception to the rule. And the other one is he's just experiencing growing pains. But we'll see. I think Jalen Daniels could end up as rookie of the year, but we'll see.
Now, just to clarify, Jalen Daniels is still in college and playing at Kansas. Jaden Daniels is the quarterback of the Commanders. There are multiple quarterbacks with similar names, but Jaden Daniels is the quarterback of the Commanders.
Okay, Jaden. Okay, I'm sorry, Bill, but I still think he'll be a much better rookie than Caleb Williams. But we'll see how it goes.
Oh yeah. Well, he's also in a better offense too. But yes, he's. I thought he was the more developed. He's 3 years old, almost 3 years older, but he's the more developed player. Yes.
Well, since we got you there, Bill, the Ratbirds knock off the Bills from the ranks of the unbeaten. Ratbirds running back Derrick Henry runs for 199 yards. Don't know why they wouldn't give him that one more, but anyway, 199 yards on 24 carries. Lamar Jackson throws 2 TDs and rushes for another. Bill, they are who we thought they were. Am I talking about the Bills or am I talking about the Ratbirds?
Yes. So here's what has always been true to me. Now, I had said that the Bills, well, I won't say that their window has closed, but they lost a lot of players, particularly in their secondary, right? They lost both of their starting safeties from last year. They've lost a good number of important players off of that team. Now, while Josh Allen covers up a multitude of sins, they've got some things to work out on that team. They've got some things to fix. I really like Khalil Shakur. Now, you don't just replace a guy like Stephon Diggs. But I really like Khalil Shakur. I think he's going to end up emerging as our most consistently effective wide receiver. For whatever reason, Dalton Kincaid, who had an incredible rookie season where he was an all-pro as a rookie, has struggled out of the box this year. He's starting to show signs of life, but because of the weakness of their receiving core, he needs to re-emerge as a middle of the field threat, a guy that's threatening up the seam and working the dig area and things like that, because that'll give them a little bit of offensive balance. Their running game is going to be hit and miss all year. And while James Cook has, to his credit, worked on running to the interior, he's better on the interior than he was. He's running harder. He's finishing runs more consistently than he did last year. Still, their short yardage and goal line back is going to be their quarterback. Their 246-pound quarterback is still going to be their short yardage goal line guy. He still takes a few more hits than I would prefer, but though he is running a little more carefully than he did in the past, I would like to see him tighten that up as well. But I truly believe they're going to win a lot of games, but against the elite level teams, I believe they'll end up getting exposed. I think they will end up, winning 11 or 12 games, and they'll probably win a playoff game and then face a better team and get wiped out.
All right. Don, the Chiefs quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, gets his 100th win with a little help from old friends. That being Travis Kelce and running back Kareem Hunt. The Chiefs D holds the Chargers scoreless from the second quarter on. Don, the Chiefs are 4-0. What do you think?
Yes. Chiefs are, until proven otherwise, they are the team to beat in the NFL. I mean, those, they're on a mission to get that three-peat, and they're starting off the season like they could be doing it because some other teams I thought would be competing for the championship are not, are kind of faltering. So I think the Chiefs are doing great, and you left that Xavier Worthy in that mention, but I'll go ahead and mention his name.
Okay. All right, well, he's a part of that plan. He's a rookie, and I will tell you this: he is definitely quick. He's not only quick, but he's fast also. Which hey, that's a hell of a combination. Dave, 49ers linebacker Fred Warner, he got a pick six, and the 49ers snapped a two-game losing streak. Brock Purdy was 15 out of 27 for 288 yards and a TD. And Mason, he continues to impress. 123 yards on 24 quick carries and a TD. The 49ers beat the Pats, who they should be beat anyway, 30-13. What do you think about those 49ers? Are they back on track?
Who's that Christian McCaffrey guy? I mean, really, I thought that was going to hurt them, and they're plugging another player in, and they're producing. Now again, consider who they're playing. I mean, they're playing New England, and I don't think that New England would be considered an elite team, but they did what they had to do. They won the game, and they're replacing as they lose players. They're plugging other players in and using the old thing, next man up, and getting it accomplished.
Let's see. Who's the two of them? Don, the fans have a 53-man roster, and all of them should be embarrassed about what they did on Monday night. The Titans win 31-17. The quarterback for the Dolphins is 14 for 22 for 96 yards, Don. What the fuck happened? I mean, excuse me, what happened here, Don?
Well, Titans. That's another team that has been kind of rusty at times, but it looks like they find a way to win. So the Dolphins they're in bad shape. I'm just going to say it right now. But I'm happy for the Titans. I'm happy for Mason Rudolph. I'm happy for TeAndre Sweat. He was throwing people around like rag dolls at defensive tackle. So good job, Titans. But yeah, the Dolphins they have a lot of issues they need to figure out. They just got outplayed, outcoached that game, and it's not like the Titans are gangbusters. I mean, they're playing their backup quarterback, so they need to find some answers to their issues.
Mason Rudolph is 4-0 in his last 4 regular season games.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Scott, the Lions quarterback Jared Goff, he's went 18 for 18. He had 292 yards, 2 TDs, and he even caught a touchdown himself on a play where he was the receiver. But Mr. Scott, the Lions D kind of, like I was talking about that Vikings D, they give up 3 rushing touchdowns to the Seahawks running back uh, Kenneth Walker. So I don't know. I mean, this was probably a good and bad situation because isn't Kenny Walker from Michigan State, I believe? But what's up there? You still consider the Lions your biggest competition? You put them at number 3. There's 4 divisions in your team. I mean, in your division, and you said the Vikings were number 1 and Detroit was number 3. Are you saying the Packers are a better team than the Lions?
Well, it's really too bad that Bo and Demetrius aren't here because I guess I'm glad Demetrius isn't here. We'd be so gushing about this performance, but you go 18 for 18, the quarterback catches a touchdown. Your defense just went to sleep. I mean, no pressure, no nothing, a perfect passing. I mean, that just doesn't even make sense. Goff is a good quarterback, but I mean, come on. So I think they're fool's gold, and I think that's to be determined. That was you have to give it to them. That was an impressive win over a team that at least I thought was good. So they're right on par, I think, with the Packers. Yeah, I think but the Vikings are head and shoulders above those two, and at this point, and I think they're fool's gold. I think they did what they needed to do last year. Whether they get back to the championship game, now I would bet against that.
All right, okay. Dave, did you keep track of what we did last week before we get to our predictions?
I did. So I'll give on the spread last week in week 4. I was 9 of 16. James, you were 8 of 16. Anthony, 6 of 16. And Demetrius was 8 of 16. So, folks, if you're listening to us, you might not want to put money down on our bids here. But then for the year on the spread, right now I have 33 of 63, which is 52.4%. Don is 15 of 32, which is 46.9%. Reggie's 3 of 7, 42.9. James 32 of 63, 50.8%. Anthony 21 of 46, 45.7%. And Demetrius is 8 of 16 at 50%. I saved Bill for last on the spread. He's 9 of 16 and leads us with 56.2% correct picks. On the over-under, I was 8 of 16. James was 7 of 16. Anthony 6 of 16. And Demetrius 5 of 16. For the year, I'm 33 of 63. Bill's 9 of 16. Don is 15 of 32. Reggie's 2 of 7. James 22 of 47. Anthony's 16 of 43. And Demetrius is 5 of 16.
All right, guys. Well, hey, let's get to our predictions for this week. As you all know, I use a DraftKings sport book. So let's get right into it here. First game, of course, is tomorrow. It is the Buccaneers at the Falcons. The Buccaneers are 1.5 point favorites, and the over-under is 44. I'm going to take the Bucks and the over. Dave.
I'm taking the Bucks and the over.
Bill.
I too will take the Bucks and the over. This one might be a boring one.
Don.
Bucks and the over.
Mr. Scott.
Well, I'm going to take Atlanta in the under because it seems like the trick to winning this thing is to go against.
Okay. In that case, Mr. Scott, the New York Jets will be playing your game, your Minnesota Vikings, and your Viking. Let's see. Hold it now. The Jets are plus 2.5. The over/under is 40.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings, and I'm going to take the over. Sam Darnold's throwing 4 touchdown passes a game. I mean, Jefferson, Addison's back. Good running attack, great offense. The defense seems like it has some lapses. Maybe will against a good quarterback. So I'm going Vikings over.
This is hard for me to say, but I'm voting against ayahuasca. Not so much for the Vikings, but I have to take the Vikings and the over. Don.
I'll go Vikings in the over also.
Bill.
I will also take the Vikings, but I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think it's going to be an under. I think 38 points is the total in this game, so I'll take the under.
Okay. Dave.
I'm taking Minnesota in the over.
Something's wrong with your mic there, Dave. I'm not sure what it is.
Minnesota in the over.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Staying with you, Dave. The Clowns are playing the Commanders. The Commanders are playing at home, and they're giving Cleveland 3.5. The over/under is 43, and the hook. 43.5 over/under. Dave.
I'm going to take the Browns are getting 3.5. I'm going to take the Browns and the under.
Bill.
Okay, what was the over/under?
43.5.
Ooh. Okay, I'm going to take the under, and the Browns are getting 3.5. Huh? Oof. It's always the hook that gets you. I don't think the Browns are going to be able to get the cover. I think they're going to lose by more than 4. So I'm going to go against the Browns, and I will take the under.
Mr. Scott.
Boy, I guess I'll take that points. Browns in the under.
Don.
I'll go Commanders in the under.
I'll also take the Commanders and the under for that. Let's see. Okay. Got to move it down a little bit here. Okay. Staying with you there, Don. This is great here. Our rivals are playing each other. The Ratbirds against the Bungles there, Don. They're playing at the Bungles. The Ratbirds are giving the Bungles 2.5. Over/under is 40.
I will go Baltimore in the over.
I'm going to go Baltimore, but I'm going to take the under. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I'll go Baltimore and over.
Bill.
I, too, will take Baltimore in the over.
Dave.
I'm going to take Baltimore in the over.
Here's a good one for you, Bill. This is a pick'em.
Oh, boy.
The Buffalo Bills, -1. They're playing in Houston. And the over/under is 47.5.
Oh. I will take Houston and the under, but close. I think they get to 47, but the hook allows them to not hit.
What do you think, Dave?
I'm also taking Houston, but I'm taking the over.
I'm going to take Houston and the under. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I'll take Houston. I guess I'll take the over.
Don.
I'll go Houston in the under.
Okay.
Wow, Buffalo. You're taking the under,
Yes.
Don? Nobody for Buffalo. Wow.
Don. The Panthers getting 4 points. They're playing in Chicago.
Ugh.
And the over-under is 41.5.
Oh, God. Oh, that'd be the fugly game of the week. You said Panthers by 4? Getting 4?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go Chicago in the under.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to go Chicago too, but I'm taking the over.
Okay. Dave.
Chicago in the under.
I'm following that train, Dave. Bill.
Same here. I'll take Chicago in the under.
Okay, Bill, the Jaguars are hosting the Indianapolis Colts, and it's home field advantage. The Colts are getting 3.
I will take the Colts.
Over under is 46. No hook.
Okay, I'll take the Colts, and God, that's about right. I think that's how many points are going to be scored. Okay. I think it is a 46-point game, so that's going to make this interesting for me. Okay, well, I'll take the Colts. I got that part. I don't like it, but I'll take the over.
I will take the Colts and the under. I think Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I'll follow that cab. I'll take the Colts and under.
Don.
I go Colts and under.
I did get you, didn't I, Dave?
No, but I'm on the same train. Colts in the under.
Okay. The Finns, another pick 'em, are at the Patriots.
Oh.
I changed my mind. This is the ugly game of the year.
Yes, you have, haven't you, Don?
This is the ugly game.
Dave, the over-under is 36.5.
Okay, I'm going to, until the Dolphins sort out their quarterback situation, I'm going to take the Patriots, and I hate to do it. I'm going to take the under.
Follow that
It's
cab.
crazy, but I am.
Follow that cab, Dave. Follow that cab. Don.
Well, I guess
This
Dave
is your sleeper game, right?
Yeah, Dave and I have the same psychiatrist, so I'm crazy too. I'm going to go Patriots in the under.
Mr. Scott.
Well, I've just got to go the opposite. I mean, I think this could be the tiebreaker here. So I'm going with New England, the over.
Bill.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with him, but I think it is the Patriots and the over. And I think the over comes on a strip sack in the end zone that's covered for a late defensive touchdown.
So did anybody take Miami?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't think anybody believes in this current version of the Dolphins.
I sure so didn't.
I definitely, and I took the under. I don't know. Somebody took the over. I'm not sure who it was.
The last two of us.
Bill and Anthony.
Okay. So let's see. The Cardinals and the 49ers.
Ooh.
The Cardinals are getting 7,
Oh,
and the over-under is 49.5.
oh,
Wow.
Dave.
I'm taking the Cardinals and the points and the under.
yeah.
Well, I think the Cardinals just got one ass whooping and they're getting ready to take another one. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the 49ers and the over. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to take enough. I think they're going to lose, but I don't think they're going to lose by 7. So I'm going to take the Cardinals and I'm going to take the under.
Mr. Scott.
I'm going to take the 49ers, and I'm going to take the over.
Don.
I'm going to take the 49ers and the over as well.
Don was the last one, right, Dave?
Yes.
Okay, Don, the Raiders and the Broncos. Boy, we got okay. Don, in this one, the Raiders are getting 2.5 since they're playing the Broncos at home, and the over/under is 36.
You know what? I'll go Raiders in the under.
Mr. Scott.
At home, Denver at home. I'm going to take Denver, and I'm going to take the over.
Okay. I'm going to take the Raiders and the under. Bill.
I'm going to take the Raiders and the over. Just barely, but I think they cover.
Over.
Dave. Dave, I think it's you.
Yeah, I'm going to take Denver in the over. This is like an old school. This is like an old AFL.
Yeah.
We just like Chargers Chiefs too. Yeah.
Okay, Dave. The Giants at the Seahawks. The Giants are getting 6.5, and the over/under is 43.5.
So I'm going to take the Seahawks and the under.
I'm going to follow that cab, Dave. Bill.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Giants are getting 6.5.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm taking the Giants and I'm taking the over.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I have to go with that. Giants in the over.
Okay. Don.
I'm going to go Giants in the under.
Okay. Did we get everybody, Dave?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, we got everybody.
Okay. Don, the Packers are at the Rams. The Rams are getting 3 points.
Wow. Home dogs.
The over/under is 49.
Huh.
Don.
They're at the Rams?
They're at the Rams.
I'll go Rams with the under.
I'm gonna go. I don't think Cup or Nakua is back this week. I'm gonna take the Packers and the under. Mr. Scott.
Yeah. I still think there's a glimmer of hope with these Rams. I'm going to take the Rams in the over.
Bill, did I get you?
Not yet, but
Okay.
you're about to. I
Yes.
think it's Packers and the under, and I think Jaden Reed scores once, and I think each of the Packers tight ends, both Musgrave and Kraft scores.
Okay. All right. To be very specific there. Uh, Dave, I think you're the last one standing, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Green Bay in the over.
We got everybody?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. The Monday night game. No, this is
Sunday
the
night.
Sunday night game. So, Mr. Scott, it's the Dallas Cowboys plus 2.5 playing at the Steelers, and the over-under is 44.
Mm.
Well, Dallas has more offense, so I mean that's a no-brainer taking Dallas to cover that. Under and over. I think I'll take it. Oh boy, I'm gonna take it under.
Okay. Don.
Okay, this will be blasphemy in Texas. But I'm gonna take the Steelers in the under.
Okay. Bill.
Just to fuck with Dallas.
This is blasphemy in my home, but I'm going to take Dallas and the over.
All right, that leaves me and you, Dave.
Well, I'm going with the Steelers, and I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to follow you, Dave. I was thinking about the under, but I'm going to have to follow you. I'm hoping that maybe, we have to be able to score more than 24 points. I set that as my limit every week. We've gotten to the 20 threshold, but I'm hoping Dallas defense has a couple of guys that are out. Michael Parsons might be limping a little bit, so I'm going to say
Marcus Lawrence.
Marcus Lawrence is definitely out.
Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence is definitely out. Yes.
Yeah,
And they're missing a wide receiver too.
Yeah, they're missing damn. He's on my fantasy team. Who's wide receiver 3 for the Cowboys, Bill?
What, Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks. He's out. Yeah, he's out. Okay, our Monday night game, and this Monday is just a single game. So let's see. Let's get Don. The Saints are at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are giving 5.5 points. And the over-under is 43.5. Your pick and your final thoughts.
I'll go to Chiefs in the under. Final thoughts? Well, this week, sorry, I'm chewing something, is off week for Texas. So I'll be Saturday. I'm going to find some games to watch, enjoy it. Next week's the OU game, so we get pumped for that. But it's good being on tonight, and look forward to next week.
Hey, Coach Sanders is 4-1 there, Bill. Don might want to see what them Buffaloes is doing.
Yep.
I'm just saying. Bill.
I'm going to take the Saints and the over. And I'm going to say Sua Ponte and farewell to a fellow wearer of the the tab, Chris Christopherson, a
Hmm.
4-time winner of the Grammys, a person who won a Silver Star, who was a Golden Gloves boxer, a Rhodes Scholar, a rugby star, a football star. When people talk about the quote unquote most interesting man in the world, Chris Christopherson is one of those people that certainly could be mentioned. And despite his background, despite his commitment to this nation, he hated jingoism. He hated people who hid behind the flag, and rather famously had a bit of a confrontation with Toby Keith years ago, and basically challenged Toby Keith, who at the time was, talking a lot of mess about various other countries and bombing people back to the Stone Age and all this stuff. So this legendary gentleman, this person who seemed to be able to do anything at a high level that he set his mind to, became a great actor, was a tremendous storyteller, was just good at literally everything, it seemed. Songwriter, singer, actor, athlete, and a simply tremendous at everything, right? Like I said, it was a Golden Gloves tournament winner. Was not only was good here, but good over there, right? At Oxford, was still starring in rugby against people who've been playing rugby since they were, in diapers practically. Just an amazing person, and
he's
like
also a helicopter pilot.
Not just any old helicopter pilot. I mean, like I said, he was the person who was Ranger trained, a captain in the Army, and like I said, won a Silver Star, if memory serves it correctly. So he was more than just a pilot. He did some of everything, like I said, at a super high level. And despite all of that, never thought of himself, as anything particularly special. But, like I said, Sua Ponte, thank you for your service to our culture, as well as your service to our nation, to one Chris Christopherson.
Great memory there, Bill. Especially one who wore the tab. I'm going to take the Chiefs and the over. I think the Saints score at least 30 points. I'll give the Saints 16, 17 points. So I'm going to take the over there. Dave, your pick and final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs and the over, and I guess my final thoughts. This past weekend, I was at a garden center in suburban Maryland. I live right outside of DC, and I was wearing this hat that I have on tonight. And I was there for a seminar on overseeding your lawn. And there was a woman there, and she kind of like looked at me, and then she smiled. And then when I was in line buying some garden supplies, her face lit up, and she said, I'm a Steelers fan. And then her husband was there with her, and she said, she was from, I think, North Carolina originally. Her husband was from DC, is a Commanders fan, a Redskins fan before that. And she's not from Pittsburgh, has never attended a Steelers game, but just because of the logo, it made her day. She saw a fellow Steelers fan, and she lives in a county above me, Frederick County. And so I told her about the Frederick Steelers fan club, which she was completely unaware of. So I gave her some directions, because she said all of her siblings, root for other teams. She's the only Steelers fan in her family, and it's basically just her, on game days. So I gave her the place, where the Frederick Steelers fan club gets together, so that, maybe she can go to a couple games there to watch and to cheer among fellow Steelers fans. But I think it's just, one of these things of where just something as simple as a sports affinity can bring people together. And we didn't know each other at all. We have exchanged numbers and everything, but it was just the logo that struck her. And it was a nice, it made my day. I was like really happy because she was so happy. Because she felt a little bit alone, but because she was isolated within her family, when at least where it came to their NFL fandom.
Well, Mr. Scott, your pick, and you can take us on.
Well, my pick is the Chiefs and the over. And my thoughts is, this Viking season, I mean, it's for some reason it's brought a lot of excitement. And so I have this hope that this Super Bowl is going to be the Vikings and the Chiefs, because I want to avenge that game, that first loss in the Super Bowl, where that's really the first time I was just totally deflated by a loss. That's really the very first time. And I could see Hank Stram with his suit on and marching down the sideline, matriculating, as he says, and holding his program in his hand. I mean, no headphones, no charts, none of that, just walking down. And so, and I remember when Muhammad pulled and wearing his toupee. Then I remember when, Muhammad pulled the toupee off of Cosell. And I mean, I just think if that can be, I'm going to have to try to get there somehow. But that, I think, would erase all the demons. That would erase all the Super Bowl losses in one swoop, and to knock off Kansas City and to get that win. That's my final thought. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm marching towards.
All right. Well, hey, we're looking forward to next week, and we'll see how our predictions went off. But thank you, everyone. Appreciate, and we'll look forward to talking to you all next week. Reggie,
I'll be matriculating back next week.
Yeah, Reggie is, as I said, in Spain, so he'll be gone this week and next. Barcelona, Madrid, and Paris. So we'll be expecting some pictures or something from our Reggie, and hopefully Demetrius will be back. We all know Mr. Scott will be sneaking in at some particular time. It won't be at the beginning, but he'll be here. So especially if the Vikings win. So.
Well, I'll have to eat my dinner earlier so I don't fall asleep. I mean, that tends to be what happens. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. If the Vikings are 5-0, I'm sure you'll be here. And I think I could put the instrument money on that. But anyway, have a good weekend, everyone. Appreciate your time, and see you all next week, hopefully.
See you next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
Boy, Don works a lot better off his phone.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
I know.
Makes all the difference.
Yeah. Do you need Don's information?
I do.
I can text you his number.
I will accept that. I will and I will look forward to it. That'll be great.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys next week.
You guys
Take
next week.
care. Bye-bye.
Good night.